Hey, Earthlings. So this is the talk I gave at NARD a few days ago, or at least the talk I wanted to, in the sense that we had a few technical problems on the day, also very high winds. So the talk is about 8 minutes long, but we cut it short because of the technical issues, the problem with the mic and everything. So this is what I wanted to say in full, which was that those people who know me as a long-term vegan and a short-term sociologist at UCD. So I'm going to blend those two ideas together in order to talk about cultural speciesism. As animal advocates, our fundamental issue, our fundamental problem is without doubt, in my mind, cultural speciesism. If we can't destroy cultural speciesism, we have to accept that we will never achieve anything fundamental in terms of liberating our fellow animals and ourselves, essentially. The pioneers of our movement knew this, people like Kathleen Janaway and Leslie Cross and Donald Watson. They knew and understood, and they wrote about such things. They understood the power of generational culture and the need to challenge it. Now, one of the most insidious parts of cultural speciesism is the fact that the ideology of animal welfarism is embedded within it. And the promise of animal welfarism is that of non-cruel animal use. So, in a very real sense, then, we're all brought up as animal-loving animal users. Most people will agree with the proposition that they are animal lovers or that they care about our fellow animals in some form. But being an animal lover is not fundamental to the philosophy of veganism. It's much more important to our fellow animals that we respect and defend their rights rather than go weak at the knees at the sight of a baby animal, especially if the next thought is to transfer that being into a so-called pet. Likewise, and probably even more so, the same applies to the concept of animal cruelty. Everyone tells us, and they've told us for years, and they do mean this, they're not lying. They tell us that they're totally opposed to animal cruelty. Everyone says that. But being opposed to animal cruelty is not fundamental to the philosophy of veganism. It's much more beneficial to our fellow animals that people recognize and respect their rights than it is for them to be concerned about the levels of cruelty that goes on in terms of their use. So for people who love our fellow animals and they're totally opposed to cruelty towards them, they are taught, nevertheless, by cultural speciesism, a couple of important lessons. First of all, that those values are good ones, but it does not preclude their use of them. It doesn't stop us, in other words, eating our fellow animals and using them in all the various ways that humans use them. There's no cultural contradiction there. Just as there's no cultural connection between the idea of don't be cruel and veganism. That link just isn't there as much as we might want it to be, just isn't there. So the difference here that we're talking about is the difference between animal rights and animal welfare. Animal rights is much more fundamental. It's about the opposition to animal use. It's not chiefly concerned with the treatment of our fellow animals while they're being used. So we are brought up as animal welfarists. That's part of our upbringing by and large. All the people around us in Dublin, or would have been on the day, would tell you that they are opposed to treating other animals in a way which could be described as cruel or abusive. But cultural speciesism teaches them that it's okay still to use them. We shouldn't treat them cruelly, but that doesn't preclude using them. This is, again, the promise of animal welfareism. Of course, the vegan animal rights position cuts completely through all of that and effectively says no. The fundamental wrong, we say, is not treatment, it's the use in the first place. Animal rights in this sense goes way beyond animal welfareism. Now, a couple of days ago on social media, I reposted something by Go Vegan World, and it was a poster or a meme, and it said this: when we choose to live vegan, we tackle the issue of animal use at its core. The issue is not how we treat other animals while they're alive. It is that we breed them into this life for us to use at all. To the extent that we as animal advocates get bogged down in the welfare paradigm, that is the extent to which we fail to concentrate on the fundamental issues and the fundamental wrongs. Only by always and every time concentrating on the fundamental wrong do we have any hope in smashing and destroying cultural speciesism rather than reinforcing it. And cultural speciesism is, as I said, and it remains our number one target. It's the culture that the average everyday person swims in, if you like. It's the culture that informs their attitudes to our fellow animals. It informs how they should be in relation to other animals. It's fundamental to what they think and, what they say to us, essentially. So I wanted to finish by quoting from Tom Reagan. I actually waved a copy of the Case for Animal Rights in everyone's face, and that was written in 1983. Now, Reagan was, the principal animal rights philosopher of our times, really. But the quote actually comes from a chapter called The Case for Animal Rights, which came out 2 years later, but that was also called The Case for Animal Rights. And Reagan says this: what's wrong, fundamentally wrong, with the way animals are treated isn't the details that vary from case to case. It's the whole system. And that entire system is bolstered and supported and propped up by cultural speciesism. And so I'll end with a quote from Leslie Cross from the 1950s. And Cross said that the aim is not to make the relationship between humans and our fellow animals more tolerable. The idea is to destroy, abolish that relationship and replace it with something more worthy, he said. He wrote that in 1951. And that relationship is based on and supported, bolstered, propped up by cultural speciesism. There's no way of getting around it. The fundamental issue for us as vegan animal rights people is cultural speciesism. We have to bring that down if we are going to win. The more we get distracted, get involved with welfare issues or things that are not based on veganism, then we're wasting time that could be used on vegan education. And there's nothing more important than doing that. Okay, Earthlings. Oh, and I was going to say as a final thought, free Palestine and feck Trump. But I forgot on the day, but there you go. So see you later, Earthlings. I'll see you again.